Right, there we go. Hiya. So this is a little bit of a new experience for me because I'm not used to filming when I'm making. I hope you find the tutorial helpful. I hope you enjoy your art box, and I hope it just gives you a little bit of distraction from whatever's going on. So wear something old, that's what I would do. There's an apron in your box. I'm going to be using the same tools that you'll be given in your box so that you can see what I can make with them tools, so you know that they all work. So put your apron on. You'll have 700 grams of clay. Now hopefully we're going to make a little pot about this big, and your flower seeds in your box, then you can pop them in there and use it as a planter. You can put your pot to the side, keep it indoors if you want it for sentimental reasons, or you can bury it in the ground, and because it's air dry clay, it's not fired, it will disintegrate and become part of the ground. So anyway, let's get back to the tutorial. So you've got your clay. This is your wire cutter. So basically now we need to make a little circle for the bottom of our pot. So this is all guessing. I don't measure many things, so I'm going to just cut off a tiny piece like that to the side. Wrap your clay back up in the plastic, because if you don't, it will go dry and you won't be able to use it. Okay, so you've got this little bit of clay. Make it into a little ball. You've got your batting tool, which is quite good for shaping and compressing the clay. So what I like to do is just throw it and bash it with my hand. It doesn't need to be perfectly round unless you want it perfectly round. That's completely fine as well. You can just use a cup or anything round, place it on top of it and draw around it. So I shall show you an example of that now. I'm going to use my rolling pin now just to smooth this off a little bit. Turn it over. You also have a pottery rib. This is used to smooth. If your clay gets a little bit dry, you've got a pot there. Fill that with water. Pop your paintbrush in and you can just wet it. Don't wet it too much because it become like slurry, which is not very good. Let's get comfy. So basically I've got like a round shape there. I'm going to use a cocktail stick, which is also in your box. And I'm going to place this on top of that, and I'm just going to use it as a template to cut roughly around. Oops, and I've snapped it. Using one. I think I shall have to get stronger cocktail sticks, unless I'm heavy-handed. Probably me actually. I am very heavy-handed. Oh. Yep. Now all these little pieces of clay, you want to put them in a ball and you want to wrap them back in the plastic because you can use them later. Okay, so just squeeze it on there. Make sure there's no air in the clay. Seal completely, and then you can take your time to create. Okay. So there I have my bottom on there. I'm going to take that off. It's still not perfectly round, but I don't really make many things which are sort of perfect in shape. I like to see the shape sort of create itself. So basically this is the base of our pot. Now there's a couple of ways we can do it. We can either do lots of sausage coils and build them up one by one to the height we want, or we could get a ball of clay and make a pinch pot. I'm not sure whether you're familiar with any of them terms, but first of all we will just do the clay coil pot. Okay, so I've got my base. I'm going to leave that to one side. I'm then going to unwrap my clay. And I'm going to cut little sort of strips. So one there. I mean, these can be rough. I mean, you can grab the clay and you can just roll a ball of it and roll it into a sausage. There's no particular way you have to do it, and just do what is ever easier for you. So I'm going to take them off. I'm going to wrap this back up and that little bit I got there. So I've got 1, 2. Didn't really cut them all the way through, not very good, but that's the extra piece. Okay, I've got a couple there. It doesn't matter if they're the same shape, or because they're all going to be sort of squashed, made into sausages. So let's move these out of the way. So compress it, and then you want to just, you're not actually, when you're rolling, you're not actually pressing like thing, because if you press you'll kind of get like, it won't look like a sausage, it'll be flat. So you want to try and keep the rounded shape. So you basically, you're just rolling it, but you're just guiding it, you're not actually making it any pressure. So you just over your hands, back and forth, and you'll just see that it gets longer and longer. If you feel that one part is getting a little bit thinner than the others, just concentrate and just roll in that little piece. Oh, my phone is going now, it's typical. So keep rolling that. And because this is quite a small pot, we don't need our coils to be very thick. There we go. Now this, don't expect to, you might be lucky, you might be able to do it first time straight away, but I can remember when I first tried to do coils, I would look at other people's and I think, how are you doing it like that? What am I doing wrong? But it's just finding your own way, you know, and as long as, you know, it doesn't really matter, there's no right or wrong way, just find whatever way is easiest for you. It's a bit like, you know, when you're sort of rolling pastry, I suppose, it's just a little bit easier when you're doing like plaques for bread and things like that. Not that I actually cook that much, because I'm not a very good cook. I like the creative side of it, but the actual cooking, no. Now this one is gone too thin because I've been rushing with it and doing what I told you not to do. But it can still be used, so we'll put it there. I was pressing on that rather than gliding it, so it wasn't even. So this side now is thicker than that side. There we go. So I'll probably use them thinner ones for the top of the vase. So again, squash in. Guide it. It would usually take a lot longer to actually roll these coils and to sort of like try and get them a similar size as much as possible, but because I'm filming in my bedroom, it's very, very warm in here. I've had to close the windows because of the sound. I've got a camera here, a camera there, so yeah, I'm just trying to rush it a little bit. So your pots and your coils will probably be much better than mine. mean, even if you had difficulties rolling a coil, you can even just shape it, and you could even do this and sort of just bash it, and that's kind of like what we call slab building. So you could kind of build it up like that, and then you put another one on, and so on. But because we're doing coils, that's what we're going to do. This is not like Blue Peter, where I had one I prepared it earlier. So bear with me. So, right, let's start with them. I'm going to put this little piece I had left over back in my plastic. Now, one of your tools, so you could use whatever you wanted to really. You could use the cocktail stick, any of the tools in your box. And this one's got quite a pointy end, so I'm going to take my bit again, and I'm just going to put little scratches into the top of it. I don't know whether you can see that. Let's move this over here a little bit. Just indenting the clay. Now you'll also in your box find a little pot of glue. Now we call it slip, so you should have this in your box. I'm using this container just for spillage a minute. So put your paintbrush in, give it a good stir, because it will be watery and then thick in the other part, so make sure you stir it well. And basically this glue is just this clay and water. But sometimes when the clay goes a bit dry, it just acts as a glue, and it sort of like helps the coil to set on there. So we call this slip and we call that scoring. So always remember, slip and score. Okay, so this clay is quite wet still, so I don't need to score any of these parts to adhere to there. So all I'm going to do is grab my paintbrush, and I'm going to put the slip just where I've made the scores or scratches. Okay, I'm going to grab my first coil, and I'm going to place it just sitting it on top. Okay, and I'm going to do that all the way around. I'm pushing down slightly, but not very heavy. I'm just situating it at the moment to see what I want. Now that's broke off, that is okay. I will just press that in and join it up. Rip that off. Okay, so basically now we have this. Okay, so you can use your tools now, depending whatever's easier for you, and you just basically want to join this coil onto the clay. So I just do that by just grabbing a little bit of the clay, holding the shape, and I'm taking some of the sides and joining it to the bottom. Now I think this part is probably the most important part to get this right, because if you get this part right, everything else is easy. It just all seems to come together. So use your tool to smooth it out. Push down with the thumb. Now I wouldn't worry about the outside yet. That can be smoothed out later on. We're just concentrating on connecting the inside, because the outside, as we build up, the inside is going to be difficult to smooth and join, but the outside we have access to that, so we can do that at a later point. So where I put that join, I'm going to just put a little tiny bit of slip in there, which is the glue, just to make sure that it doesn't come apart, and then smooth that over. And you can use your finger then. As you can see, I had to cut my nails off because I can't do clay with nails. So I'm just securing that coil to the base. Okay. So what I'll do then is I'll get my bat and I will just reinforce the shape where I've been playing with it and it's sort of gone a bit wonky or... Okay, so now we do the next one up. If the clay's getting dry, don't forget, make little holes. I'll show you again how to do it here, because it's quite difficult to score the coils because they're so thin. So I just like to do little dots, indents in there. Put your glue on. This just prevents it coming apart when it dries. And then again, ideally you should put them on that side as well, but my clay's quite wet. So again, we're gonna just place it where we want it. We're not actually doing anything, we're just doing sausages in a circle. Until you get to that point, break it slightly over. If it's not over, it doesn't matter either. And then we're gonna just connect that, like that. I'm gonna use my finger. I'm supporting the outside to keep the shape. Because if you'd like pushing like that, you're gonna sort of distort it. So just, you're keeping it in shape by supporting it with your other hand. Now again, see we've got 2 layers coming up now. Inside, we need to smooth that off now because we won't be able to reach in there later. So again, hold the top just lightly, place your thumb on there, support the sides, and then just want to join them 2 coils together where they're meeting, only but there, just very lightly. You're not changing the shape, you're not really moving much clay, you're just joining them. There we go. You take as much time as you want with this as well. You know, this is in your own time. And if you're not happy with what you've done, you just roll it into a ball, start again. If it goes a little bit dry, you just put it in a carrier bag and just roll it in. Make sure there's a little bit of water in the carrier bag, squash it all in, it'll become hydrated again. Okay, so there we go. I've joined them inner coils now. So I'm gently just pressing, smoothing. Okay, and then onto the next layer. I'm not scoring on these because this is quite wet, so I'm just going to continue going around. Now we've got 3 coils. See how the pot's getting higher? Again, you can put a little bit of slip on there, not too much because it'll make it all soggy and you won't be able to work with it. So all you're doing is joining these together. Supporting the outside. And just pull up just to join them coils. The process of actually doing this is really relaxing, and to think like from a ball of mud what we can make. Okay, so I've joined all them now. Actually there's one there. Oh, and there I missed. Should have put my glasses on really, that would have helped. Okay, get my finger around there. Now if you've got some water in your pot, which I haven't actually filled it up, I wasn't that organised, and just spray it a little bit, tiny bit, not to make it too muddy, and then will smooth it. Okay, so let's go for our next layer. Now if we want to keep going straight up, we would just continue and just keep building straight until it gets higher and higher. Now you might want to change the shape. You might want it wider at the bottom, thinner at the top, entirely up to you. So I'm just going to do this one straight, but I will show you like how you can take it in. So if you want to start bringing the vase in, you just sit the coil slightly halfway across like that, and you start going around sort of in the inside, if that makes sense. And then you would do that. Now I'm not doing this, so I'm just going to place it. And then as you go along, you would continue bringing it in, and then you continue with that, bringing it in again. And as you can see, if I was to continue doing that, how the top is closing in. So you're gradually bringing the coils in and to whatever you want, and then you can bring it in, bring it out. So many possibilities. But I'm going to take them back off because I'm just going to do a straight vessel for now. So just going to stick it on the outside, rip it off again, get my tool, support, pull, join in them joints there. I mean, if you want the outside to have that coiled look, that is completely fine. That is quite a nice look. I do like the coiled vessels. But for it to be sturdy and to not come apart, when it dries, you need to join the inside. You can still keep the outside looking like coils. Pulling up. Okay. See, it doesn't look perfect. It looks all just joint, but it will be lovely when it's finished. So I'm just going to go around the edge with my tool on the side now, check in my joints are all smooth. Okay. So I've got another coil here. I'm a bit short with this, so I will just join it. Smooth it in. And I will go with the next one, but I won't join it in the same place, because it creates a weakness then if you make all the joins in the same place. Fill that gap up. And it's much easier if you just use one coil all the way around, there's no joining, but sometimes you just have to. So even though I'm coiling this shape, I could still change the shape if I wanted to after it's been built. So let's use my tool again, I'll explain now. Let's join these. So I'm sort of keeping that top one pressed down here as I'm pulling up, and I'm supporting the outside. You might find an easier way for you to do it. You might be an expert in it, you might know how to do it. So everybody does it differently, and I don't think there's any right or wrong way, as long as your pot stays together and it suits the purpose you made it for. So obviously, because this is air dry clay, it's not going to be fired in a kiln, so it's not going to be permanent if you put water inside there. Unless you seal it with a sealant, then it will start to dissolve and break down into mud again. But if you're going to plant your cherry blossom seeds in there, and you can pop it in the ground and it'll become part of the ground, or you could just plant your seeds in here till they take, put a bit of plastic inside and then plant them outside. So let's get our bat again. I'm just going to tap this into shape again. And very gently on the top, which is compressing it all. Okay, now I'm going to take my rubber rib, I'm going to put it in the inside and I'm going to support the outside, and I am just smoothing. I'm not really fussed on perfect pots where they're completely smooth, so I kind of like a bit of fingerprint in there, or you can see it's being made. So leave your mark on it. Okay. Now I'm going to turn it the other way. And I'm going to do the same thing, just compressing it all. So now I can change the shape of this bottom if I want to, I can just by tapping it. Now at this point you want to put your initials on it, or write, I don't know, you can write whatever you want on there just so you know it's yours. So I'm just going to write C, J, C. So we call this graffito when you are actually drawing into the clay. But this is really satisfying, I find, anyway. So you're not going all the way through the part. As you can see, the part is still solid, because the bottom can easily crack if it's not completely joined, or it's a bit bitty. Actually, no, that would be with ceramic clay, so ignore me. Right, so you could, if you want to tidy up these edges, you can have flat edges. You can leave it sort of looking rustic. And okay, so that would be your basic part. You can tidy it up with your thumb. But what I like to do is smooth it so it's completely smooth. So that is, you could leave that like that now and let it dry, and there's your pot for your flowers. But I like to use the ribbed wooden rib, and I'm going to put my fingers in the bottom just like that, supporting it, and I'm also supporting the wall inside, and then I'm going to use the ruggedy bits here and I'm just going to scratch it. So I'm joining them again. You can even use the tool we were using there, which actually for this size pot might be easier. So I'm going to go all the way round like that, making sure I'm not pulling the coils apart. And even if you want to do half smooth and the other half coils, very creative. I mean, your pot doesn't have to be completely symmetrical, doesn't have to be round, doesn't have to be straight up. You can have it going over there, you can have pieces coming off it. Get creative. I just find the best creations come from when you're free with it and you have no expectations of it. You just think, oh, I'm going to make something. Grab the clay, just think, right, I'm going to make a pot. And you go along, and as you go along you might find that ideas spring into your mind. You think, oh, that would be quite nice. Oh, I'll put a flower on there, or I'll put a little hand on there, or some eyes, and it becomes a character then. With me, everything is a character. Right, still pulling up, supporting it. Don't worry about it going too much off shape, because you can just bat it back into shape. And when it's smooth, if you wanted to draw patterns in the actual pot, which is what I was showing you with the bottom, sgraffito, which is a really nice effect. I always like to do leaves. I don't know why I do leaves. I always have. They're just something I enjoy drawing into the clay. I'm not even sure whether I actually enjoy the look of them, but I enjoy drawing them. So, all that now, it looks a bit rough, but it's all joint. So I'm just going to support it with my fingers, and I'm just going to, where I'm batting, so I'm not changing the shape, just compressing it. Just little taps. So I don't tap where my fingers are not, because otherwise I go. Okay. But as you can see, it's so easy to put it back into shape if you do lose the shape you're after. This is kind of compressing it, making it sort of the same sort of thickness. Okay. So now roll them bits up and pop them back in the plastic. We've also got a sponge to clear up any mess. Just pop that there for now. So now I'm going to use the rubber rib. I think I like this one for smoothing. Same thing, pulling up, just supporting, but not actually taking any clay, just smoothing it. It's a bit like, you know, when you fill in a hole with polyfiller, same sort of thing. It's just easier with clay. I always find when I'm filling a hole in a wall, I make it worse. So. Now if you want a really tidy edge, you can cut it off. So basically you could just cut it all the way around here with your cocktail stick, which I will put stronger ones in the box, and just hold your hand the same height so it can't move, and you would just turn the pot. You're not moving your hand though, so you know it's going to be the same height all the way around. That's depending on whether your desk is straight, which mine is not. But I haven't moved my hand, I've just moved the pot, and it should line up, which it pretty much has. So then where that line is, go through deeper. If you've got a knife, a sharper knife at home, you could use that if you wanted a clear edge. But for health and safety reasons, I put in cocktail sticks. Okay, so I've taken that scruffy piece off, but I can still use this. So I'm going to wrap that back up. And as you can see, we've made that pot, and we've still got 3/4 of our clay left. So let's try and smooth that slightly. It's very light pressure. I remember when I first started, I was like pushing like really difficult and like really hard, and then I've sort of breaking it and it was all changing shape, and I was thinking, what's going on here? Why is it not staying the same shape? And it was me heavy-handed. Very gentle movements. And if you struggle to get a smooth edge, you could make it a pretty edge. You could sort of put little dents in there, scour it, you could add things to it. But I like to spend quite a bit of time just pinching slightly, trying to get the sort of same thickness. I don't want it too perfect because I want it to look like it's been made, you know. So there we go. Turn it that way now. Oh, my engraving off the bottom is gone, so I'll have to re-engrave that. Pulling around again, not pushing, just scraping. Okay, now if you find there is some little gaps or little holes that don't seem to be going, just get a little bit of slip or a little bit of water and just do that, and we'll just kind of smooth it off. Use your finger to rub it in. Okay, and then you're going to get your rib again. As you can see, that's smoother now. Well, I hope it is. I haven't got my glasses on. I'm surprised this clay is not dried out totally with the heat in this room. So if I see any little bits, I'm just working them through with my thumb. In the inside. I'm not too worried about the inside. I mean, you can spend hours trying to smooth it, put slip in there, the paintbrush, and get it completely smooth, but my thing is, if it's attached and it's all secure, it's not going anywhere. If you're going to be planting something in there, you're not going to see whether or not I've actually smoothed that completely. I probably would smooth it if I was making it to keep, but this is just quickly just to show you how to make a pot. Okay, so there we go. Just now, if I wanted to add something to this, I could. So maybe I want to put a little heart on there. It's just so I'm going to do a heart. Just grab a little bit of clay. Take a little ball. Roll it. Okay, now I'm going to roll it into a sausage. Not complete sausage. Need that one. Okay. As you can see, it's just like a little tube. Now this is an easier way I found of so you get your cocktail stick, you place it at an angle and you just push down. Yeah. Then you have, so basically there is your little sausage. I cut it. Now I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to join it. Okay, but to join it, I need to slip and score. So I'm going to put some tiny little holes in there and on the other side. Get a little bit of glue, slip on there and on the other one. I'm going to put the two ends together and I'm just going to rock them back and forth gently. Okay, so it doesn't look like a heart at the moment, but hopefully by the time we're finished. So smooth that off to join it. Okay, and then the other side. Doesn't matter which way you do it as long as you're joining it. I mean, if you wanted to, you could just roll out a little bit of clay and cut out your own heart shape. I just find it easier to do it like that, and it's more 3D. And then just play with the edges, push them and create that heart shape. Or you might have a heart cookie cutter, anything. Okay, so it's not a perfect heart. I would spend a long time actually fiddling with this and I would quite enjoy it, so I won't spend too much time on this because you'd be bored, but basically that would be the heart. Now I like to push it to give it more of a 3D effect, but as I'm pushing it, that's coming there, part's drying, so I'm just going to put some glue on there and I'm going to make sure that's blended in. Okay, now we'll pretend that's a really good heart shape, okay? I know it's not. So I want to put it on my vase. So I think, right, where do I want it? So do I want it there? Yeah. So basically I've got to glue this to that, because if it dries without the glue, it'll just fall off. So what I'm going to do is just put a few dots around the edge where I know I want this. Okay, and then I shall score the edges of this. Put some glue on there. And leave that for there a second. I am actually going to score this more where the heart is going to be, just to make it extra secure without actually going through the pot. So I'm just you can see it hasn't gone through. Now I'm going to get my heart, glue side, slip side, goes on, and you just do the same thing, just gently rocking it back and forth, not to change the shape, but it's just helping it lock in. So that is the heart on there. It's quite tatty, so I'm going to just go around with the paintbrush. Really, you could do this with just plain water, probably be easier and neater, but just going to clean the edges up and make sure that it's connected to the pot. Scrape the excess off. Now it's not very, I haven't put it very straight, but so there's your little heart. And if you wanted to still, if you wanted to put some decoration on that, you could put another little heart inside of that. So just draw around, just scratching into the surface of the clay. You're not actually digging, you're just scratching. So it's, you know, if you wanted to paint it, you could paint it different colours. So also, I think it'd be quite nice to maybe put some legs on it, maybe. So you can either get 3 or 4 pieces, little balls. Again, I'm going to roll them. Okay, this one. They don't have to be the same size, just roughly. I mean, I'm not very good at doing sizes or straight lines or things like that, but if you are, then it would be easier if they are the same size, but don't worry too much about it. Actually, this one's a lot smaller. I think I should take a little piece off the big one. That little piece. Okay, that one is very small. A bit more clay. Probably be too big. It's getting a little bit dry now, so I'm going to put some slip on there. Work it in. Okay, pretty much. So we're going to turn our pot upside down again and put that clay away. It's good to get into the habit of sealing the clay. I mean, I lost so much clay when I first started out because I was rushing to build, and yeah, thought, oh, I'll sort that out after. But anyway, so I've engraved my name on there. You could do it a lot smaller, but I'm basically going to put one there, one there, one there, one there maybe. You know, I could put the 2 like that. It's up to you, however you want to do them. You can even do 3. You'd have to space them like that. So if we say we're going to put them there, so I'm going to do little scratches there. I'm going to do little scratches on the ball. Some glue. Some glue. Wiggle. Some scratches from there, some by there, some glue, wiggle. That is a lot bigger than that one, but when we push it down, it'll be fine. Now I've cut my nails off, I can't forget the cocktail sticks. Okay, some scratches by there. Some glue. Glue. There we go. Some scratches by there. Don't have to spend loads of time thinking, oh, is that centre, is that perfect? Just see what happens. Just enjoy the possibilities of what you could possibly make. And I think, like, by making this, then it'll trigger other thoughts, thinking, I'd quite like to make that, or I wonder if I can make this and make that. So there we go. So we've got our base on there now. So actually I didn't do that very well, because where I've got the heart, I should have done the feet so that maybe if that was the front, there was one there and one there. But we're not going with symmetrical. So basically what I'm going to do now is go and just drop it slightly. So it kind of like levels itself off. There we go. And that is your pot. Now, you can, as it dries, you can continue to smooth it, you can perfect it. Okay, but basically you can just set it aside to dry, and there's your pot. I mean, if you want to like decorate the exterior of it, this is what I do with my leaves. I just draw leaves, which is called graffito, and this is really, really therapeutic. It's just being free with it, you know. We'll go along there, we'll put one there, and you're only just like sort of very gently touching the clay. Come off there. Might come up there as well. I don't know why I do leaves, I just find these really relaxing. I think it's because you can continue and just keep going with them, and they're so free, you know, and then you go the other way if you want to. And then we'll have one coming off there, and going down in the other direction. And you can draw whatever pattern, you can write something. It's your project, be free. So this is basically what I like to do anyway. Okay, so a pinch pot is totally different. It's the same thing. So I'm just going to give you an example. I'm going to use all this clay at the moment, but you won't need to use all this for a pinch pot. So I'm going to squash it all together. Okay, now I'm going to use my bat to compress it all. See how I'm filling all the little creases up. So once you've got your ball of clay, sort of put it in the sort of shape of kind of what you're aiming for. Okay, now what you want to do is put your thumb in and push down, holding the outsides, and you just pinch around very gently, holding the shape at the bottom. So I like to pinch so far. Now that's still very, very thick. Then I like to hold the inside, create the shape a little bit. Okay. So you're going to be just pinching it in the shape of a pot. I mean, you could even do it so that you could do the base like a pinch pot like this, and then you could add coils on the top. Lots of possibilities. So when you're pinching, you can kind of feel where there's lumps and where it's thick, so you can kind of gently make sure this thumb and your fingers on the outside press in the same sort of place. And you can kind of watch telly and just, you don't even have to look, you can just, yeah, that needs to be thinner. And even if in the inside you want to smooth it with your thumb, you just drag in the clay up. Whether this is the correct way to do a pinch pot, this is my way. It's what I find easiest, and you will find a way which suits you. You know, you might love it, you might hate it, but I think once you've touched clay and you realise the possibilities of it and what you can actually make out of it, you know, like teapots, cups, plates, animals, characters, everything on this planet you can make. And it's sort of overwhelming, the possibilities. I remember when I first started my undergrad, I was, oh, I can make this, I can make that, and I was like, wow, yeah, amazed by it. And even when I'm watching telly now, I've got a piece of clay in my hand to squeeze in, just that sort of experience of just squeezing the clay. And you can also, like with this as well, you can shape it, so if you want it to go in, you kind of just pulling it in, so you aren't pulling the clay up. And don't worry about your edges, because like you saw with that, we took that off, so you can cut it off. Okay, actually I quite like that edge, a little scalloped edge. Wasn't intentional, but it's quite effective. And even if you wanted to do it that way, you could like kind of okay. So there's still a lot of clay at the bottom there, but that is because I used a lot of clay for the pinch pot. But you just keep pulling, and if it gets a bit thin at the top, just cut it off. Cut the thin bit off and start again. So I'm going to cut this piece off now, because I just want it to be sort of roundish pinch pot. Okay, now I want this quite thick actually, because I could use it as a paperweight, or I could put stones in there, or pot puree, jewellery, whatever really. Another thing I do like to make, which, you know when you have flowers in the garden and they're sort of like fallen off, but the flower is still there and it still looks really pretty. Where do you put them? You know, how, you know, because they're not big enough for a vase. So what I like to do is make something like this, which could be used for makeup brushes, could be used for anything, pens, for stationery. I am going to use the end of my paintbrush. I'm going to wipe it with a sponge. Okay. I'm just going to support it, wiggle it, and make little holes in it. Which is a really pretty thing. So if you've got little bits of flowers in the garden, you would just insert them in there. And I'm just wondering if I've got anything to hand I can actually put in there to show you. Have a look. some cocktail sticks, so we'll imagine these are pens or makeup brushes. You see? So once you've finished creating, and if you're not happy with what you end up creating, roll it back up, get a little carrier bag, pour maybe a container full of water in with it, close the bag, make sure there's no air in it, then you should be able to squeeze it all together and start again. That's the beauty of clay. And there we have it. Possibilities. So I hope you enjoy making. Take care.